Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be having an update on a multi-day severe weather event. Well, not necessarily a multi-day severe weather event, but there's going to be several days we'll have a severe weather risk, and it's going to be kind of on repeat as we kind of get into this weekend into the middle of next week. And it's going to be happening over some of the same areas over a several day period as well. So we'll be having an update on that. Before we get started this video, if you guys like weather related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time in this channel. Plus, we'll have more updates on this event here as well over the next couple of days. So definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. We're going to get started with the watch warning advisory display. Really, it's mostly quiet across the country. We got looks like a rare red flag warning in eastern Pennsylvania, most of New Jersey, and into parts of Delaware. Don't see a red flag warning out there that often. There's goes along with some freeze warnings and watches up there as well. Things are going to get cold up there again. As you look further back to the west, got a large area of red flag warnings over parts of the Four Corner states into parts of the Severn Plains. Some wind issues over parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and Colorado as well, and even some winter weather issues for parts of the Rockies and parts of Idaho and Montana. But generally, it's mostly quiet across a good chunk of the country. If we check out the SPC outlook for today, there's a slight risk for severe weather in the northwestern part of Nebraska. And we do have a margin risk that covers several states out there. It includes portions of Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas as well. The tornado risk, it's not very high, really a low end tornado risk. It's a 2% probability out there and includes southern Nebraska, most of Kansas, into parts of northern Oklahoma. Damage winds will be possible, but I think the main threat will be hail, especially within um, that slight risk as well. And that's what's leading to the slight risk upgrade is the hail threat. In the day two, which is tomorrow, we got an enhanced risk for severe weather in southeastern Nebraska, east central Kansas, into northern Oklahoma. There is the potential for some stronger tornadoes out there as well, which includes places like Tulsa, Wichita, Kansas, and also Edmond, Oklahoma, as well. So you do have some larger cities um, within that risk area as well. Damage winds will be possible, but I think the main threat is going to be hail. There's going to be a lot of lift out there for these storms. Out there, it's going to be a lot of instability in place as well. So that's going to lead to the possibility for some large hailstorms out there. Then on day three, which is Saturday, got a slight risk for severe weather over most of Illinois, western Indiana, far western Kentucky, southeastern Missouri, and northeastern Arkansas. And I don't think this is going to be a big day here. I think the main threat is going to be gusty winds, maybe some hail. There's a possibility for some isolated tornadoes as well. I think Saturday is looking to be kind of a general slight risk type of day, unless things change out there. The day four, which is Sunday, got a slight risk for severe weather over the western part of Texas. And then on day five, which is Monday, there's another slight risk over southeastern Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, southwestern Arkansas, and the far northwestern part of Louisiana as well. Day six through 7 and 8 are predictably too low, but that could potentially change over the next couple days as well. We're going to begin with later today here by looking into the HER models. And you can see here by looking into the HER model within that slight risk area in the northwestern part of Nebraska, there could be a big cluster of thunderstorms that could develop, and that could contain some hail out there as well. There's also two other clusters out there that the HER model is suggesting. There's another cluster in the eastern part of Nebraska and western Iowa. And there's another one in the central part of Kansas as well. And then again, conditions seems pretty marginal for most areas, which if we do check out the HER model with significant weather parameters, you can see here the numbers are not very impressive out there. Within that slight risk area over parts of the northwestern part of Nebraska, the numbers are not very elevated out there. And we're not really expecting tornadoes up there, but really the main area of focus for the potential for tornadoes is southern Nebraska, central Kansas, even the potential in the parts of northern Oklahoma as well. So let's check out one area, and that's in the southeastern part of Nebraska. You can see here within this sounding right here, there is some wind shear going on here. Even wind direction of high looks pretty good as well. but those winds are not very strong out there. So that's something to note as well. The winds are not very strong despite having wind direction of height. Rate of velocity values generally about 150 to about 300, so that's favorable. The LFC and the LCO height are a little bit spread apart, which may help limit the tornado potential out there. There's also just a little bit of dry air, but I don't think that's going to disrupt that much out there. But there's also a cap in place too, so that's another thing out there as well that could potentially be a limiting factor. Plenty of instability out there. Downdraft cape is a little bit elevated, and also lap rates are not very impressive out there. So I think the risk overall or the conditions out there are pretty marginal out there. I think what looks pretty good is the instability, but wind shear values overall doesn't look the best, but it's strong enough to support some severe weather out there. If we check out central Kansas, which is another area that the Hermos highlighting with elevated significant tornado parameters, instability values do get better as you get further to the southwest. However, story velocity values do get lower as you go further back to the southwest. You notice here story velocity values are generally right around 150, which 150 I consider probably favorable for tornadoes, but it's pretty marginal overall regardless out there. There is wind direction of high going on out there as well, which can help with the tornado risk a little bit. The photograph is not very impressive though. That's also going to limit the tornado risk overall. But then again, lap rates look good. Downdraft cape is elevated. There's also plenty of instability out there as well, which may help increase that wind and hail threat out there as well. And there's another area as you get back into the northeastern part of Texas, but in that area, even though there's a decent amount of wind shear and instability, there's a strong cap in place, and there's also a lot of dry air in the mid level. So we're not really expecting much way of thunderstorm development out there as well. But there could be but the potential could be there. Maybe an mall could underestimate the cap. That's a possibility. Or I meant to say overestimate the cap. That's what I meant to say. But that could be a possibility out there as well. So that's pretty much today out of the way. Let's talk about tomorrow. Going back to reflectivity using the HER model, and really it's not very impressive at all. However, there is a pretty big cluster of thunderstorms that the HER model does suggest moving across northeastern Nebraska. And those could contain damaging straight line winds, and also has that potential for tornadoes as well, because there is a pretty good amount of wind shear in that environment up there, which could be favorable for tornadoes. However, there's not much convection showing from the Hermo, and really the Hermo's been busted before over over the past these severe weather setups in the plains. It's always underestimate the convection coverage. So it would not surprise me if that happens again along the dry line. But at the same time, hopefully it doesn't happen because conditions are pretty favorable out there for the potential for some significant severe weather. Let me show you guys some significant weather parameters for that. Look at these numbers out there, around about peak time heating out there. Pretty good values out there. Really over a 1 to significant weather parameters, it's favorable for tornadoes. But if you get over a 2, conditions could be favorable for stronger tornadoes. So you can see here we got numbers as high as a 4 or a 4.5, and those are some pretty elevated values. Let's go up to southeastern Nebraska first, where we do have that big cluster of thunderstorms nearby. And you can see here, like I was saying earlier in the video, that there's a lot of wind shear out there. Certainly there is quite a bit of wind shear. Sorry, the velocity values are generally 300 to 400 or 50. But check out the wind direction of height here. I mean, at the surface, winds are coming out the southeast. But then you get around 850 millibars, they're about due south, and then 700 millibars are kind of from the southwest. That's pretty good wind direction of height out there, and that can really help increase that tornado risk out there. Pretty good holograph in place. There's a slight cap in place there, but I don't think that's going to disrupt too much, though, and that's a little bit on the weaker side of a cap out there, especially given the fact that there's a lot of lift out there. I think some storms might be able to blow through that cap out there. Instability values wise, I mean, surface base cape 3,400. That's pretty high out there. Downdraft cape 1,500. That could be favorable for the potential for some damage winds. And also, middle level lap rates is very strong out there as well. So really, by this sounding here, conditions could be favorable for damage winds, large hail. Some of it could be significant And there's also that possibility for tornadoes, and some of those could be strong as well. Storage depletion values are on the higher end, which could help with a strong tornado threat as well. As we get a little bit further south here, let's go into eastern Kansas, east central Kansas. This is where the HRMA model does not show much ways of convection development. And you can see here LFC and the LCO height are a little bit spread apart, but they're not too far spread apart out there. I don't think this is going to disrupt the tornado risk overall that much at all. But the wind direction of height, the winds in the upper levels are a little bit stronger on the sounding here. And the wind direction of height is also still pretty good. At the surface, it's due south, 850 millibars is from the southwest. And as you get from 700 millibars, it's almost due west. So that's pretty good wind direction of height on that sounding. And pretty good hodograph, plenty of instability to work with. And really, downdraft cape and lap rates are both pretty strong. One issue, though, that there is some dry air at the surface here, but I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue here with a setup like this, especially when the wind shear values are pretty strong out there as well. There's also got that capping problem as well, but that's kind of on the weaker side of things as well. So I think some storms might be able to blow for that cap as well. But then again, what this sounding does favor is the potential for tornadoes. Some of them could be strong, damaging winds, and a possibility for significant hail out there. And that all depends on how strong the cap is and how much dry air there is. This is going to be another one of those situations where it's a boom or bust potential. The boom potential is that the models overestimate the cap of dry air at the surface. You get a lot of supercells to develop. You could see a significant severe weather event in progress. But if it's a bust, models underestimate the cap of the dry air. If it's stronger than expected, you may not see much way of severe weather out there at all. So this is another one of those boom or bust scenarios out there. If we get down to central Oklahoma, those significatory parameters do begin to back off a little bit. And you can see here some of the similar problems out there. Got that dry air going on at the surface. You got that cap in place. Seems like the cap is a little bit stronger on the sounding here as you get a little bit further south as well. Plus, the LCL and the LFC height is a little bit more spread apart as well, which may help limit the tornado potential. But even with all that stuff going on out there, you still got a good hodograph. Wind direction of height is pretty good. Plenty of wind shear. Downdraft cape is elevated, and also good lap rates and a good amount of instability. I mean, this is another good sounding out there if we did not have these issues out there. I mean, there's a potential this could become a significant severe weather outbreak if I'm going to be honest with you guys. And I think the better potential is going to be a little bit further up north, where you have a little bit better wind shear values out there, and that's where they do have that enhanced risk area. But then again, you still have that possibility for that boom or bust scenario as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind of as well. So if you do live in the eastern part of Nebraska, east central Kansas, down to central Oklahoma, definitely pay attention to the forecast over the next couple of days because this could turn out to be a big event overall. So it's definitely something to really pay attention to over the next couple of days, or over the next several bottle runs, I should say. This will be happening tomorrow. Um, of course, as you get into the overnight hours, those instability values begin to back off, and then we kind of move on to Saturday, which her model does not go as far out as Saturday yet, so we're going to check out the NAM model. We're going to begin looking to the superset composite parameters, and pretty decent numbers out there, about 2 or 3. Not very high, but not very low numbers either. But if we do check out some of the other ingredients, like if we check out surface-based cape, there's not going to be a cap in place here. A cap, I don't think it's going to be an issue. But instability values would be just good enough for some severe weather out there. Generally 1 to 2,000, but there are some isolated areas of a little over 2,000 joules per kilogram out there. Dew point values out there, generally in the low 60s out there. Now, the Lola Jet seems like it's a little bit stronger there than some of its previous runs from the NAM, so that could lead to some slightly better wind shear values. The 500 millibars out there, plenty of divergence out there, so that's going to lead to a decent amount of lift out there. So looks like a pretty decent severe weather setup overall. And oh yeah, here's the mid-level lap rates. Stronger values as you get further to the south here, more focused in southwestern Indiana, western Kentucky, southern Illinois, and southeastern Missouri. This is going to be an issue here because there's a possibility you might see too much crap, some of that I do call crap vection out there, especially you get further north here in the parts of northern Illinois. So that's going to be another uncertainty as well because there's not going to be a whole lot of dry air going on out there. The lap rates are not too impressive out there than it is further south. But low lap rates, though, is pretty good over in Indiana, but where those thunderstorms could be developing, not so much. So that's another thing to watch for is to watch to see how the trends go with lap rates because there's a possibility, especially up in northern Illinois, there might be a lot of crap fiction going on out there. But let's check out a couple soundings out there. Well, let's check out one. We'll check out north central Illinois. And you can see here, instability values are not very impressive, but surface base Cape 1300, mixed layer Cape is up to as high as 1100, so there's a decent amount of instability in place here. But then again, like I was saying here, there's not too much dry air out there. This is a pretty saturated sounding overall, especially in the lower levels as well. That could be good enough for some showers to develop out there. So that's an uncertainty that we do have out there for Sunday. And I don't think this is looking to be like an enhanced risk day out there or anything like that because of some of these limiting factors that could be out there. However, there is downdraft cape is there, and also middle of lap rates are not bad either, so that could help increase the severe weather risk. So it's definitely something to watch for. And oh yeah, by the way, there's a pretty decent photograph, and storage deflation values are not bad either. Plus, wind direction of height is okay. It's not the best wind direction height you will ever see out there, but really, it's not a huge setup here. It definitely has some uncertainty out there as well. Sunday doesn't look any better out there. It could move into parts of the Tennessee Valley and Eagle Hollow Valley out there. This is by Sunday morning. So got some decent values out there along the cold front. Out there, there's still a decent amount of instability out there, but there's not a very strong agreement here. If I show you guys the GFS model as we start on Monday, the greater surface composite values are farther south and more focused in central Tennessee and southern Kentucky. So there are some differences out there between these models here. So there's some uncertainty as you kind of get into Sunday. But if we do check out some of the ingredients out there, and I think the main limiting factor as you get into Sunday in the parts of the Ohio Valley is the wind shear. I don't think the wind shear values are going to be that impressive, which this is the low of a jet. Doesn't look that bad over Kentucky and Ohio. It's not too bad. But then again, wind shear could be a limiting factor out there as well. And there's also going to be, I do think there's going to be plenty of instability to work with. But that's not the only area we'll be watching for. The other area we'll be watching for is Western Texas, which you can see here, superset composite parameters from the GFS are not very impressive out there. But conditions could potentially still be favorable for supercells, and there could be the potential for a cap issue out there. But wind shear values are not bad. Global jet's actually there. 500 millibar winds. It's not really much way of 500 millibar winds, which does lead to a decent amount of lift out there as well. And that could help with that hail threat. Dew points, I think there's going to be plenty of dew points, but they do back off as you get up into the Texas panhandle up there. But really, conditions, at least from the GFS ball standpoint, it's not that bad out there, but it's still something to watch regardless. But it does look better from the GFS as you get into Monday, especially over central Oklahoma and southeastern Kansas, a little bit further north than what the SPC placement has it for right now. But the GFS has been jumping around a little bit here, and you can see here then again from the GFS, got a pretty decent severe weather setup if that were to be correct. That could move into parts of the Ohio Valley by Tuesday of next week. And the focus is back further to the west. by Wednesday. And really, this is going to be pretty much a common theme this weekend into early next week, where you get these multiple shortwave troughs that kind of develop along that stationary boundary. And they bring in these multiple severe weather risks over some same areas, really from parts of Texas and parts of the lower Ohio Valley. So, yeah, that's kind of the common theme here. And that could lead to the possibility for some flooding issues as well, because a lot of these storms here will be producing quite a bit of rain too. So that's another thing to watch for as well, is that potential for some flooding issues. Let's check out the GFS Ensembles. This is the Energy Helicity Index, the probability. Really, I consider a pretty good probability. It's really at least a 60 or 70%. And we're going to begin on Sunday. And you can see what I'm talking about here. The NAM headed further north, GFS kind of in between, and the GFS Ensembles is farther south than the GFS. So there's some uncertainty on the placement here for parts of the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley on Sunday. But really the main focus on Sunday is going to be in western Texas. It looks a little bit better than the Ohio Valley overall, which you can see around peak time heating. Pretty decent percentages there uh, for a pretty good environment for severe weather. And oh yeah, by the way, Energy Helicity Index, that's a combination of CAPE and storm relative helicity. Or in other words, it's another way to look into the combination of wind shear and instability. And really, higher the percentages, really the better the agreement from the GFS Ensembles here. And by the way, this is a probability for energy helicity index for at least a 1, which is not very high, but conditions can still be favorable for severe weather, even in a 1 top environment here. Then as you get into Monday of next week, you can see here pretty decent numbers over parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and the parts of Arkansas. And then by Tuesday here, it's got a lot of uncertainty here as you get into Tuesday. It's got pretty decent numbers from Kentucky all the way back down to parts of Oklahoma and Texas, or the Southern Plains in general. And you can see how it kind of repeats itself again as you get into Wednesday here, over some of the same areas as well. And that could continue on afterwards as well. If we actually check out the rainfall amounts, the mean here from the GFS Ensembles here, you can see what I mean here. Especially when you get at least 2 inches of rain, that's a pretty decent amount of rain out there, which some of these areas could use a decent amount of rain as well. Like in the parts of the Midwest, even in the parts of the Central Plains, could use some rain. They were experiencing some drought issues out there. So at least this is some good news for areas in the parts of the Midwest and up in the parts of the Central Plains for getting a decent amount of rain. I mean, this is the mean rainfall amounts for the next 10 days. Generally 2 to 4 inches rain. So this is some good news out there. But really the greatest severe weather potential will be areas just south of some of those higher amounts, which is in this blue circle right here, where we could potentially see some of those multiple repeats of some of these severe weather setups. And these areas could even have the potential for some flooding issues as well, because even strong severe storms can produce a lot of rain as well. So that's another thing to watch for as well. We'll check out the European model before we end the video. So I kind of look into a surface-based here analysis. You can see here's your low that will bring in the severe weather potential. Really over the next couple of days there. Here you go, getting into Sunday here. Severe weather will be possible over parts of western Texas. You see those big storms developing. And then as you get into Monday, a 996 millbar low in the southwestern part of Kansas could lead to a severe weather setup over parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. That could move further to the east by Tuesday over parts of the Midwest, perhaps parts of the Ohio Valley as well, maybe the Tennessee Valley. And it kind of repeats itself again by Wednesday and eventually into Thursday of next week as well. So then again, it's looking to be a very active pattern for parts of the southern, central plains, Midwest, and the parts of the Ohio Valley over the next several days, really until by the middle of next week. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit that like button. If you like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put a comment section down below. Or just guys questions. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.